I'm not hearing anything.
Welcome to Dad Talk Today. My name is Eric Carroll, and we have an amazing show lined up for you. We are fighting for fathers all across the United States and all across the world where you can be glad to be dad. Stick around, guys. Dad Talk Today is about to begin. Hey everybody, welcome to Dad Talk Today. We got another live Q&A going on tonight with Mr. Kevin Hickey. Kevin, what's going on, man?
Oh, just working and grinding, man. What are you doing?
Man, we've been working on this documentary for John Mast, which has been a labor of love over the past 6 months. Mm-hmm. It's getting near the end. I'm still going to make a few changes and everything. But guys, we're going to be doing this live Q&A tonight. If you got questions for Kevin, put them down in the comments and I will bring them to him. Nothing about this creates a client-attorney relationship. Yeah, don't say Kevin told you to do this in court because he's not your attorney. Basically, the best way to put it. But
Right.
Kevin, I think you had some good news for a father today, didn't you?
We did. We had a case in, it's West Central Arkansas. It's about an hour and a half south of our office, and we had a really good result. So, that's a good result for a dad today.
Yeah. So guys, we are getting near the end of that documentary. I'm just going to show you a few clips of that tonight while we're waiting for some of the questions to come in. If you'll put your questions down in the comment, I will get those to Kevin while we are watching this, and we'll talk a little bit about it once it's over. Millions of parents across the world are experiencing something known as parental alienation. The brainwashing of a child and or children to want nothing to do with their other parent. My name is Eric Carroll, and I host the show Dad Talk Today. I started Dad Talk Today in the fall of 2019 to bring awareness as to what these fathers were going through inside a family court. Little did I know during that period in time, there was someone that was watching my show, and I would become all too familiar with his story. His name was John Mast. At this time, I'd like to bring our first guest on the show. John, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. So no, I haven't gotten to see my kids.
So, man, it's been a little bit of an emotional roller coaster for, I think, everybody that was involved in that, especially the family, since going back to February. What's that been like? I know we got together with the family last night and did one of the preliminary watch throughs. What's it like going back through that and seeing that footage of John?
Man, Monday, you already got me tearing up, man. That's pretty rough, and it brings everything back. That was such an incredible moment. And that's the first time you and I met, was on that trip at the memorial service. And it was a time that I'll never forget, being there. And it's been tough, man. The family, they think about those children every day, and they pray for them. And, they're still working through this, and it's going to be a while. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And to have something like this happen to your son, to your brother, it's just it's the worst tragedy. It really is.
It's hard, going back through that. It's just like reliving it. It's been about 6 months now. And then watching that footage of John from last Thanksgiving, when he was on the screen, Kevin, he was right in the thick of it. I didn't realize how bad he had it.
Mm-hmm.
You hear these stories all the time, right? But I just really didn't know how bad he had it. And a lot of these guys are probably here tonight, guys, when we start getting through your questions. This is just how real parental alienation can get.
John's, and not just because he got killed, John's case was the worst case of parental alienation I've ever seen. And, Eric, we talk on here a lot about the scale, the 0 to 10 scale. Alienation can be very, very minor and subtle, and it can also be a 10 and be off the charts and all of that. This was a 10 plus, and then it even culminated with his death. And it was as bad as I've seen.
Yeah, and I found out some new details over the past weekend. It seems like there was certain circumstances, had things been handled the way they should have been the first go round, I don't know that we'd be sitting here talking about that right now.
Well, yeah, there were definitely dominoes that kind of got put in I guess the right place or the wrong place, whatever you want to say, that caused all the calamities that befell John for the next 2 to 3 years in his case. And really, as part of his legal team, put us behind the 8 ball way early on. A lot of that was the judicial system. A lot of that was CPS getting involved. And a lot of it was mom and her tactics, and all of those things just kind of fell perfectly to just really torpedo John's case and put him in a terrible spot.
Yeah. So guys, I got one more clip. We'll watch that a little bit later on. I'm going to get some of your questions. If you want to put them down in the comments, and I'm going to bring in McKevin. We're going to start off with Mr. Josh Marat. He said, from Louisiana, my ex had her attorney motion and was granted to revoke all licenses for back support. How can I fix this? I cannot afford a lawyer. In fact, I just got my realtor license and they are being hateful.
My ex had her attorney motion, was granted to revoke all licenses for back support. I'm not sure what that means, if they're saying that it got revoked where they couldn't pay it. Maybe he can clarify that question a little bit.
Yeah, Josh, tell us if that you're meaning that you've got to pay it, or if that you don't. Because the way it's reading, I think it almost sounds like you don't.
Yeah.
Not too sure, but we'll definitely circle back around to that, brother. Joe Alicia III said, the court ordered psych evals for me and my ex. Since the court paid for them, I wasn't able to leave a copy of mine or hers. Is there a way for me to get copies? Mine came back as boring and normal, LOL.
Yeah, he's saying he wasn't able to get a copy because the court paid for it. Joe, talk to your lawyer about that. I mean, if I were your attorney, I would want that, and I would think the court would allow us to use those as evidence in the case. So talk to your attorney about that. You should be able to get a copy of that. And there are sometimes things called protective orders that we can enter. It's not like a restraining order that you hear about, but a protective order is when we have sensitive information like psych evals or financial records that we want to put into the court record, but we don't want the whole world to see. We can do a protective order so that everybody promises, the attorneys and the parties, that this information will just be used for this case and it won't be disseminated out everywhere. So talk to your attorney. I would think you should be able to get permission from the court to use a copy of that in your case.
Yeah. Josh came back. He said, I live in Arkansas and X lives in Texas. Louisiana still has jurisdiction. How long is the revocation for? How do they expect me to earn a living? To me, this move was about stopping me from making money in real estate to hire a lawyer, which I told them I would and would also pay child support.
So, Josh, you're going to hate us, but I may need more clarification. I'm trying to figure out what they revoked. Did they revoke your real estate license? You were about to start practicing as a realtor, or did they revoke your driver's license? I know child support enforcement can sometimes take away your driver's license for a while.
Yeah.
I hate to ask you to clarify again, but if you will, we'll help you as best we can.
Yep. So I'll give one more comment that he made right here, but we'll still get down to your question. He said, I haven't seen my kids in 3 years and not spoke to them. We started this off with John Mast, and when I talked to him last Thanksgiving, I kind of asked him, what are some of the things that you're doing to keep your head above water, and are you keeping journals for those kids? And he said he had. How I'm trying to think of the words. Those journals are what we've got now. You know, what are some other things you think, Kevin? I mean, make sure you're putting journals saying good morning, good night, I'm thinking about you. That way they have this to look back on.
Absolutely. And depending on how old they are, if they have phones or they can have communicated with you in the past through Messenger or whatever, send them messages. You know, as long as you're not court ordered to not do that, you're allowed to do that. Send them good morning messages and good night and, hey, give me a call. How's your day? What's going on? I don't know how old they are, but those are ways you can stay in contact with them. And you know, going back to John Mast journal, Eric, I mean, my hope is one day those are given to his children and they will see, you know, everything that he wrote to them, because obviously he's gone now, but one day I hope they get to read those.
Winford on YouTube said, in New Jersey, waiting 3 months for a motion to get heard, and it keeps moving dates. My attorney says we have to be patient, not seeing my kids for 13 months. Is there anything that can be done to get in the court?
Well, your attorney can file for an emergency motion since it's been 13 months. My guess is, since he's saying to be patient, maybe that's already been tried and was denied, or there's some reason he can't get into court faster than that. That's the only thing I know to do is try to get into court faster, or your attorney can contact the other side's attorney. Maybe there's some way you can work out some kind of intermediary situation to get you some visitation in the meantime.
Matthew Ryan Wright said, is it normal for co-parent counseling to charge $1,000 deposit? I told my attorney I can't afford, but my attorney said to take out credit card or borrow the money. I'm currently driving from Northern California to SoCal and paying for hotels, gas Saturday, tomorrow, Sunday, because mom filed a false CPS report. So the judge didn't increase visitation. Is there another option for more affordable co-parenting therapy? Already paying the counseling too. Feel like they're trying to financially break me. Well,
Matthew, your story, unfortunately, is not very, I mean, it's common. It happens. Family law cases get very expensive very fast. A lot of times you have an ad litem involved that you're having to pay fees, split fees with the other parent. You've got to pay your own attorney. A lot of times there's counseling involved. Now you've got this co-parent counseling. I think your attorney's telling you that because we get it. As the attorney, we get it that this is draining you, but if you don't do these things or figure out a way to get them done, the judge is going to look poorly on that. Now, if you can truly show on paper that, look, judge, this is too much of a financial hardship, maybe your attorney can go back and argue that to the court to somehow get that changed. But I know it's tough, buddy, but figure out something as best you can to try to comply, because the judges order these things and they expect them to be done. But again, if you have a real hardship there and it's just not going to happen, maybe your attorney can file something with the court to show the judge that you're doing everything you can. You just can't afford. This is just piling onto the pile, and you can't get it done.
Yeah. Okay. So Josh said that the law says his driver licenses and all licenses are revoked. They can take your realtor's license because of child support.
I have not heard of that. You might, and this is Louisiana, Josh, so I don't practice. I haven't had a case down there, and Louisiana is based on French common law, not English common law. So it's kind of a little bit of an oddity in the United States. Things are sometimes interpreted a little differently. But driver's license is one thing child support enforcement in pretty much every state can take away. I've not heard of them taking away real estate licenses and things like that, because they want you to be able to work. They want you to be able to make a living. When it says all licenses, you might look at the order you're reading. A lot of times that may mean like a CDL or some other license you have that allows you to drive. I don't know. You may just have to look at the exact order and see what it says.
I've never understood that about taking somebody's driver's license. If they can't get to work, they cannot get ahead on child support.
I get that. Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Yeah, I said I get that. I hear you, and that's one thing I've argued before as well. Now it's just going to be even harder for them to get to work. Child support enforcement's answer, I'm not saying I completely agree, but their answer is we've got to do something to start getting their attention. I can tell you that is not usually the first course is to do that, unless the child support arrearage is very high. But yeah, I've kind of agreed with that as well.
You can get like 1 week behind in the state of Georgia. You'll have something in your mailbox telling you they're about to take those licenses. I know that from my own experience in the past. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Oz Ann on Facebook said, this is more of a vent, but why is it that my child's mother can work a low-paying job for the rest of her life while I work my butt off and have child support increase because I get a promotion raise? She gets 60% of my income. How is that even fair? I had to get a second job to fill the missing income, working 7 days a week, and I fear she will find out about my second job and take me to court for child support increase because of my extra income.
I don't know how many children you have. 60% of your income sounds extremely excessive. I know in the state of Arkansas, we just changed the child support last July, not this last month, but last year. We have a new child support worksheet that takes both parents' gross incomes into effect and into account, and then it puts together there's a formula they use to come up with the child support amount. But even prior to that, in Arkansas, if you had 4 kids, I think it was at 25 to 28% for 4 children. So 60% of your income sounds incredibly excessive. I wonder if the court, when they set that, took some other kind of income into, if you're self-employed or have a business, and they somehow added some kind of other income in there.
Yeah, that's weird. So, I mean, I was in a similar situation back in around 2014. Kevin, I was working a full-time job. I got a second job trying to get ahead. Well, my child support came directly out of my paycheck.
Right.
So my first job was paying that. They started taking my child support again out of my second paycheck. I called the state of Georgia. I pitched a fit. Guys, like, I'm working this job for free. It's actually costing me money because it's 30 minutes away from where I work and puts me an hour coming back home. I'm losing money by working. They did that for a year. And then when they finally stopped it, they said I couldn't get that money back. I would just stop paying however many months I had paid over before the child turns 18. I would stop paying early. Well, you know, that's stopped, but I never get that money back.
Wow. Yeah, it's hard sometimes. It really is. I've got 1 or 2 people of the attorneys at child support enforcement locally that have a real good relationship with. Many times I'm able to call them up and get things changed. You know, and I'm very thankful for that, and so are my clients. But they are just overworked, man. They have these big computer systems that track it. You know, our area where I am, suburbs, you don't even call them suburbs, with the little outlying towns and everything, you're talking about 120 to 130,000 people. Our child support enforcement office handles about 3 or 4 counties around here. 18 to 19,000 cases is how many cases that office is handling at any one time. And I think they have 4 attorneys. So they have support staff, but that gives you an idea of the magnitude of what they're dealing with.
Right. I hear a lot of the same stuff about CPS. And
Yes.
they'll have a very few amount of people work in this huge area. And it's like, you know, some of the CPS workers have told me there's cases that shouldn't even be in there that they're having to give time to. And the ones that do need it are getting completely overlooked because they got to hurry up and get through those cases because they got to make a quota.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's they definitely need to get that back under control. I don't know if you can answer this or not, Kevin, but I'm going to bring it to you. Debbie Ann on YouTube said, Eric, has John's parents or any of his family members been able to see their grandchildren? If you can't answer, I understand.
Debbie, they have not. It's a real good question. It's a question we get a lot. I'm sure Eric gets a lot. They have not. There are a lot of reasons for that. Safety is the primary one. Clearly, because of what happened to John, you have to be very careful about any situation, putting all of those people together, even for a visitation exchange. But again, they think about those kids every day and pray for them every day. And, you know, I'm hopeful one day they're going to see them again.
All right. Enrique Ruiz said, why do courts entertain parental alienation? They should be able to see through that nonsense that one parent is trying to ruin the other and using the kids to do it. Custody cases should be evaluated by psychologists. I'm going to have to disagree with that. Sometimes the psychologists and evaluators, guys, a lot of people beg to get them on their cases sometimes, and I've seen too many bad results. What's your thoughts on it, Kevin?
Well, and I think what Enrique is saying is why even try to go down this, quote, parental alienation road when it's obvious that it's bad for the kids? And Eric, I don't think you and I disagree with that. And we've talked about to put that label on there. The behavior is what we're looking at. The behavior of the alienating parent is what you look at. And you can call it whatever you want. Honestly, as the attorney, I don't care what you call it, as long as the judge sees that it's bad for the kids and it's driving a wedge between these kids and the other parent. Psychologists, sometimes you need them for court, but not always. And, you know, when you're putting together your case, you're wanting to think about what evidence do I need? And I don't need tons and tons and tons. I need however much time we've got, whether it's a half day, a day, 2 days. I need your best stuff. I need to put my best foot forward, put my best evidence out there. And if a psychologist adds to that, then great. But if they're not going to add to it and really kind of get you over that finish line or get you over that final hurdle to win your case, then you may not need a psychologist. And that's something that you'll just talk with your attorney about and go forward with. But in fact, I would say the majority of the custody cases that I deal with, not the high conflict ones, but the majority of the custody cases I deal with, a lot of times we don't have a psychologist come in and testify. So I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag if you want them to evaluate every case.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a common thing. People see the different psychologists that talk about alienation, and this ain't dumping on any of the experts. I know a lot of them, good friends with them. But at the same time, guys, it's you should be able to, if you prove the behaviors like Kevin talks about all the time, you don't need somebody to come in there and educate them on what alienation is. Just show what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, save yourself a lot of time and a lot of money.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
A lot of money. Matthew Edwards said, I'm in final trial tomorrow. Alienated 2.5 years. Guardian ad litem against me. Great, very involved relationship with kids before false allegations got me out. Judge bought her lies. Kids are brainwashed bad. Tapes of me yelling, cussing, reactive abuse. Just need advice. Ex diagnosed as alcoholic. Blocks phones have moved away. Psych report seems to favor me as enmeshment. One kid diagnosed. Just need advice on for court. My issues are just anger with her.
Matthew, man, that is a lot of stuff, and you've got court tomorrow. I don't know where to begin to go through all of that. It looks like, even though the guardian ad litem's against you, it looks like there's a lot of stuff that you've got that you and your attorney can present to the judge to show that mom is really acting in a bad way and is causing a lot of problems. That's all you can do, is just beat that drum, with that evidence, and show the judge that we understand the ad litem may not be on our side, but look at everything mom's doing to harm this situation, and then tell them what you're wanting for your relief, what kind of custody you're wanting, time with the kids you're wanting. That's all you can do. I mean, you got trial tomorrow, so that you're at the home stretch now.
Yeah. This is a little bit of a different one. Lisa Berry said, my son works with a youth at a sports academy, and the judge commented, you can feed other children, but not your own. He was taken back by this. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. I'm kind of curious as to some of the details.
Can feed other children. Yeah, I'd like to know a little bit about what the case is about, and because there's a judge involved, and a little more what's going on there.
I'm curious if that's an alienation case, what the orders or whatever, but bring it to us. Lisa did have a question here, though. She said, what about if you pay child support but don't see your child or children?
Well, you should, many times child support can be set up by child support enforcement. They will just set up child support. They won't put together a custody order. They won't put together a visitation order. That's something you're going to have to do on your own. So I don't know if that's what your situation is, Lisa, that there's child support being paid but not seeing the children. It might be because you don't have a visitation order. But if you do have a visitation order, you need to get it enforced. Get it in front of the judge and have the judge enforce the order. They put these orders. We say that a lot on here. They put their orders together for a reason. They put them into effect for a reason, because they want everybody to follow them. They don't want you back in their court. They want orders put together that you follow, and that you're going to go out there and follow like adults. And it doesn't always work out that way. But if someone's not following it, you got to take them back to court for contempt. Now, part of your question may be, and different states treat this differently, but most of the time child support and visitation are two entirely different things. So just because someone's not paying child support doesn't mean that you can take their visitation away. So be careful, because I see this a lot. Someone will come in and say, well, I stopped letting him see the kids because he's not paying child support. Well, you can't do that in Arkansas. Those are two entirely separate issues. And if he's not paying child support, you got to take that up with the court. But you can't just unilaterally on your own stop the visitation, because that's an order that you're supposed to be following.
Yeah. Stephen Creasy said, can my ex get in trouble for keeping my kid from me for a year and now starting to keep her from me because I won't stop mediation or court?
Stephen, yes. And, everybody listening, I'll just kind of harp on this and do a little thing on contempt here. When you don't follow a court order, you're in contempt. If you willfully fail, I know that's the order, and I'm not going to follow it, then you are in contempt. And that includes custody orders, visitation orders, something you were supposed to pay that the court ordered you to pay, something you were supposed to go do, counseling or whatever, return a vehicle, whatever it is that the court ordered you to do. If you willfully decide on your own, I'm not going to do it, you can be held in contempt. That is your recourse, is to go back to court and say, Judge, this person's not in contempt. And you can ask for all kinds of relief. You can ask for all kinds of punishment for that other party that is not following the order. And that's what you need to do. You can also ask for your attorney's fees to be paid. Does not mean the judge will order it, but you can ask for that. And when I talk with clients, they'll ask me, what are we going to get, or what's going to happen when we go to a contempt hearing? And my answer is almost always the same. It depends on how mad the judge is. If the judge gets really upset with the other side and really thinks they're taking advantage of the situation and just blatantly failing to follow the order, they may punish them pretty harshly. So, Stephen, back to your question, can your ex get in trouble for keeping your child from you? If you have a visitation arrangement or custody or whatever it is, and you're supposed to be getting your child and your ex is just blatantly not allowing that to happen, absolutely she can. And, you're just going to have to take her back to court for contempt.
Yeah. Guys, get us some questions down here. We're getting kind of near the end of them. I'm going to read this one. Get your thoughts on this, Kevin. Wesley Allen Ouellette said, I kept my daughter from age 6 months till 6 years old away from her meth head alcoholic mother. I allowed her visits whenever she wanted, but never alone. At 6, her mom's new boyfriend paid for a lawyer. She was going for full custody and child support. As much as a joke that was, even though I had 6 years of documentation and witnesses of her antics, I was still told I had to allow her mother 3 days a week alone the first weekend. She had my daughter, then 7, was sexually molested by one of her boyfriends. Wow.
Good grief. Well, that's a lot. I don't know if there was a question there, but that's a lot. And that's unusual that after that long that a judge would immediately order some unsupervised visitation. Usually they have a phase-in step-up period for a while to reacquaint the child with the parent that hasn't been around. So I'm not sure on that.
Well, I mean, I got a question about that. I mean, if you got an ex that is, doing drugs and you got evidence that that's going on and you take that to the court, I mean, what are some of the steps you would suggest, Kevin, for somebody that's going through that?
I've had that happen a couple of times in the last few months, and what the judge did, which I thought was a good remedy. Now, this was a parent that had been around the child, so it wasn't like a 1 or 2 year not seeing the child, so there was no bonding there. The judge said you're going to have to test clean on a hair follicle. That means you're going to have to be clean for a while before you have any kind of unsupervised visitation with this child. Until then, we're going to give you very limited supervised visitation, just a few hours a week until you can get clean and we can make sure this child is safe. Because remember what the number one paramount thing that the judge always has to be concerned about, the best interest of the child. Not what does this parent, and so if one parent is on meth, which is one of the worst drugs that you can be on, they're going to want to make sure that this is a safe environment for this child before they go back unsupervised.
Got a really good question from one of the viewers right here. Eric Carroll from Dad Talk Today said, Kevin, what is the best interest of the child?
Eric, longtime listener, first time caller, right?
He's a big supporter.
Best interest of the child, it's kind of like that old definition of pornography from the 60s when the Supreme Court said, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. That's kind of the best interest of the child. What is in this child's best interest? Is it best interest of the child to be with each parent half the time? Maybe if one parent's gone all the time, that may not be in the child's best interest. But parents will get caught up in this, well, I deserve this, or he lived with his mom for most of the time for 2 or 3 years. Now he needs to live with me for 2 or 3 years. That's what's best for you as the parent. What is in the best interest of this child? Many times we ask what the child wants. Obviously, if they're very young, what they want may change from day to day. But we look at what is best for them. What is going to be the best development situation for them, the best environment for them? Do they have a good room at mom's, good bedroom at dad's, their own bed to sleep in? All of those things go into what's in the best interest of the child. And it gets a little cloudy sometimes because parents and all of us do it because we want our children with us all the time. They think about what's in the best interest of them. I deserve this, or let me tell you what she did to me or he did to me, or what I've done and what I pay in child support. I deserve this. That's not what it's about. It's what's in the best interest of that child.
Cloudy with a chance of meatballs and child support.
Yeah, that's right.
Dave Murray said, hypothetically speaking, why would a child be recommended trauma therapy for physical abuse after an abuse and neglect examination by an expert?
Abuse and neglect examination. Trauma therapy. Well, to me, that means that this expert found that this child was subjected to physical abuse, and they are continuing to have trauma from that, and they need some specialized psychological help. That's what it would mean to me.
Yeah. Dave also said, what does consistent with physical abuse mean by a doctor?
This is a real good question because it goes to a lot of things. Doctors, it's very hard to pin them down and have them say 100% this is what happened or whatever, unless you're dealing with some kind of a medical report where the medical examiner has to give some kind of a cause of death or something like that. What you're probably going to get is something like what Dave has in this question, consistent with physical abuse. So seeing these injuries to this child or this person, and it seems to be consistent with physical abuse. So what that normally means is something that this doctor has seen before or studied that was physical abuse to a person and caused injuries. They are seeing something consistent with what they've seen before that was physical abuse with what they're looking at now. So that's when I see that in a report, that's what it means. It means the doctor has seen something that to them is consistent with physical abuse. But you'll notice how they'll word it that way. They won't come out and say this child was physically abused. It's a very different thing. But they'll say this looks consistent with it.
We know about the allegations of like sexual abuse and like physical abuse between the spouses. How common is it in these cases for allegations of abuse to the child once a divorce seems to pop up?
Very common. Actually, I'd probably reverse it. When we see that there are false allegations going on, 9 times out of 10, there's a contested custody or divorce case going on. False allegations almost always come out of those kinds of situations. And it's unfortunate that it's that common, but that's where they come from 9 times out of 10. And the research is clear across the country, every state. That's where they come from most of the time, is when there's a hotly contested custody case or divorce.
Randy Betts said, can my ex keep my son from seeing me until we go through mediation?
Randy, that you're going to hate this answer. That depends on your case and what's going on. I don't know how far you are into the case. Unless you've harmed this child or there's some other reason, then you should be able to see your son just like your soon-to-be ex is. And I don't know how far your mediation is down the road, but shouldn't be any reason for you not to see your son.
Yep. When is it okay for a parent to keep a child away from the non-custodial parent with going against the court order?
Well, I always tell clients, I can't advise you to violate a court order, but what I can do is tell you some of the laws. There are most states, pretty much every state makes it a crime for you to interfere with someone's custody or interfere with visitation. What that means is, let's say you have visitation, Eric, and you're supposed to return the child to mom at the end of your visitation time, and you don't. You just decide you're going to keep the child an extra day. Well, now you've interfered with her custody rights. Let's say she doesn't let you pick the child up on time. Well, now she's interfered with your visitation rights. So that's the difference. The reason I'm telling you all that is there's a what they call a defense to that crime. If you truly believe that this child's going to be put in harm or in danger by going with that parent, then that is a defense if you get charged with one of those crimes. So you'd have to come in. You can't just come in and say, well, I think he was mad that day and might do something to the child. You got to have more than that. But that's that's what I will tell clients is if you truly believe this child's going to be in danger, if they go with that parent, then don't let them go. I can't tell you to violate the order, but it's better than this child, whatever. One thing I will tell people on this issue, they'll say he keeps showing up drunk, wasted drunk for his visitation to pick up the child, or he's on drugs or whatever else. I tell them, look, if you think is going to happen this Friday evening when it's his time, he shows up and you truly believe he's drunk, you can smell it on him or whatever, and you say, look, I say, talk to him. Tell him, look, I think you're drunk. Let's try this again tomorrow or whatever. We'll make up your time, but right now I'm not letting the child get in the car with you. If they object, say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to call the police. We're going to have them come out and check you out. And if they say that they think you're totally fine, then that's what we'll do. I don't see any problem doing that.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, if you know for a fact that that's what's going on with them, I wouldn't let my kid go with somebody I thought was drunk.
Me neither.
No, sir. Matthew Edwards said, how do we pass laws for penalties for false allegation? This is why parents are alienated. Isn't that something known as perjury, Kevin?
Yeah. And there's Matthew, there are laws on the books that if you can get a prosecutor motivated enough to prosecute, they can. Most of the time, these things fall under filing false police reports. And that's a crime in pretty much every state. Some states are starting to pass laws against false allegations so that if you do, put those out there. Did Georgia do that?
It wasn't Georgia, but Iowa did.
Okay. And interestingly, and I learned this in John Mast case, North Dakota we talk about these child custody factors. They had about 12 or 13 factors. And in your brief that you gave to the court, you had to list each one of those factors and which parent you thought was better on. One of their factors was, do you think that they didn't word it false allegations, but has the other parent brought up false, it was false allegations. They used a different phrase against the other parent. That was like a factor that the court would consider in custody, and it should be. If it was proven the other parent did that, then the court wanted to know that.
Absolutely. Douglas Lee Horn said, my son was born in the town I currently live in, Oh, hold up real quick, Kevin. I just completely lost thought. Eddie Andrews, if you'll go to YouTube, I think we got it on Facebook as well. Eddie came on the show about 3-4 months ago. They passed a bill in Iowa against false allegations, and that was a huge win.
Okay.
There's supposed to be consequences for false allegations already. We know how rarely sometimes that is punished. But I think the big focus everybody's going after is shared parenting. We might be able to get bills in there about false allegations even quicker.
Well, I think you're right, Eric, and that's something you and I need to start working on because it seemed like 1 or 2 other states were looking at that too, and that's a wave that needs to get started because that is many times you can't ever recover from that. Even if you prove yourself innocent, exonerated, whatever other word you want to use, there's still people that believe it. And it's like a bell that can't be unrung a lot of times. There need to be some serious consequences for people that are going around making those kinds of allegations against parents.
If you can make an allegation that can completely ruin someone's reputation and ruin their life, I don't know why they're not getting the same type of punishment. If you can prove that was what they was doing, that's a dangerous person.
It's
very dangerous.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
And, not to give away my secrets, but I'm never going to be a guy that writes legislation. That's not what I do. When I go to the Capitol, I see myself more as a salesman, telling them what we're going through. And I can tell you with politicians, politics are filled with false allegations, guys, especially between the war with the two parties. So that was one of the ones that when I was bringing it up, there was like, oh, really? I like this. I like this. You get a little bit more, you get a little bit more interest from them when you're talking about that. So I think going to the Capitals, taking that legislation, all you got to do is get it and pass it on to somebody else. Say, take a look at this. Will you sponsor it? I think we could get that through in the States very quickly.
I would hope so.
I really do. Douglas Lee Horn said, my son was born in the town I currently live in, California, and I'm paying child support as well. The mother moved with our son to Missouri, and it's been kind of hard to see him regularly. So my question is, can she change his legal name or terminate my parental rights without my consent?
No. Well, let me put a little bit of a caveat on that, Douglas. You need to start getting your visitation hooked back up with your son if you don't already. I know you're saying it's kind of hard to see him, but if you go in many states a year without seeing the child, she can try to file for some kind of adoption, even what's called a single parent adoption, that would terminate your rights, and then you're dead in the water at that point. So make sure you're paying your child support. Sounds like you are, but also make sure you get in there and get your visitation reestablished, because if you don't want to be in a situation where she could possibly adopt, because that's real important what you've got at the end of your question, where you say without my consent. If you go for longer than a year, it's possible she could do it without your consent. So that's something that you want to stay in contact with the child and make sure that doesn't happen. It says your son, I don't know if the two of you were ever married. Might not hurt to put your name on the putative father registry in Missouri. I'm sure you're already legally the father since you're paying child support, but anytime I see a woman move with the child halfway across the country like that, and then visitation becomes sporadic, I get a little worried about that. So I don't think it would be overkill to put your name on the responsible father registry or putative father registry, whatever Missouri calls it. So if she does try to file an adoption, that attorney will check that list and will see your name.
Todd Ashley said, does that work both ways, what you just said?
I think. I'm not sure exactly what he's meaning.
I guess they don't have a punitive mother registry because she's
born
with the rights. Maybe if you can re-clarify that, he might have been talking about something else. Entree Stone said, why do we not have due process with child support cases?
Well, you should. Anytime there's something that's going to go on with your child support, whether it's being increased or decreased, you should be able to go to court and present your case as to what should happen. They may be, if you don't show up, I don't know what happened in your case, but if you don't show up for court, they will go ahead and proceed without you. The reason they feel like they can do that is that due process has been served because you were served with notice of the hearing. But normally you have to be served with paperwork and be given a chance to present your side of it.
Okay, this makes sense. Todd said, can dads get a mother removed after a year absent?
Yes. Yeah, you can do that. It can go both ways. Yeah.
I don't know if we ever talked about this, Kevin, like when we was talking about getting some bills towards false allegations, getting some 50-50 legislation. What are some other ways? I mean, you're inside the courtroom, you see how you got to work these cases there. What are some other ways, legislation, while we're trying to get shared parenting, that you think might be able to help the system out?
Well,
don't know if you've put much thought into that.
Well, the CPS system needs to be completely overhauled. That's like trying to turn a ship. That's not something that's quick. That's a big effort. That's one thing that needs to be done. I think a lot of the rules and the statutes are kind of archaic in the CPS system. I think shared parenting is a good start with starting a ground floor of where we work from as far as how you're going to do custody in a particular case. I can't think of any others right now. I will tell you one problem that I see: maltreatment cases. When you get investigated and they find it is true and they want to put you on these state child maltreatment lists, they allow everything in from the report. Hearsay and everything from the it's usually DHS, or in Arkansas, it's the Arkansas State Police that conducts the investigation. That's very unfair and prejudicial when they let all this stuff in that's hearsay and you don't know if those people really said that or not. It's people's notes. I think that needs to be taken out to where that's not automatically admissible. I think it needs to be a case-by-case basis.
I'm curious, something I've been turning my brain on over the past couple of months. I know most people watching the show, when they hear that, like, child support just needs to be completely abolished. And I get your reason for saying that, but I wonder what would happen if we asked for like child support maximums. Like you can't go over this amount right here. That would fight back at the Title 4D machine more than anything. And then you might be able to get other legislation in when that incentive's not there to dangle over their head anymore.
I could see that. There's only, many times you look at the payor spouses or the parent that has to pay, you look at their income and set child support. And it was a percentage basis in Arkansas we had a child support chart based on income. And then if you went above the chart, which I think if you made more than $60,000 a year, you had to start calculating it on a percentage. There's an argument there. It's like, okay, you make $75,000 a year, so child support should be $1,500 a month or whatever it is. Well, so if LeBron James needs to pay child support under that system, then this mom needs $3 million a month to take care of this child. I mean, and there are some cases where it got that out of whack, and you wonder about that. It's like, well, clearly we don't need that much to make sure this child has a good living every day. Yeah. So it could be something that could be looked at.
I think so too. I mean, I think the one that kind of sticks out right now is the Kelly Clarkson, $225,000 a month in child support.
It's a lot of child support.
That's a lot of child support. I know a lot of things that I could do with $225,000, but it kind of goes back to feed the narrative. Like, whoever makes the most money gets the least amount of time and pays the maximum amount, because of the incentives that goes back. But that is just some of the amounts that I've been hearing. I forget Dr. Dre's in one right now. It was up there, some of the money that they had to pay. And it's like, man, there should be a maximum on this. If somebody wants to go and have a life with someone else, they no longer want to be in this marriage, get support, but at what level?
There's an interesting law in Arkansas, and I'm guessing most states have this. I've never used it. There's been a few times I've mentioned it to clients. You can ask for every 3 months, a quarterly accounting of what the child support's being spent on. And we had a client push that and made us go to court over it to produce an accounting, but it's there and can be used. And I'm sure most states have that. So that's one thing you could do to try to show that, look, that here's what this money is being used for. If it's a gross amount of child support and very little is being shown to go to the child, then you probably need to get an adjustment.
I would love to see that. Douglas talking about he lives in California and mother moved to Missouri, so he hasn't been able to see his kid. He said, also, I make my child support every month, and one thing I forgot to mention, she will not answer my calls when I call to talk to him. How would that work with him living in California and she's went over to Missouri?
Well, usually you've got a visitation schedule put in place. Someone will come in my office and say, look, I'm about to move to North Carolina or wherever it is. Clearly the visitation schedule that you have won't work anymore. You need to go back to court and modify it. Usually I tell that person, if they're on somewhat speaking terms with the other parent, to talk to them and try to come up with the best schedule they can. But if that's, a lot of times I get the answer, look, she won't talk to me or he won't talk to me. You're just going to have to go to court and get it modified. So Doug, again, you need to do something sooner rather than later. Don't let this go too long. You need to go to an attorney in California if you can't. I'm worried she's starting to push you out, and there's got to be a reason she went to Missouri, and I hope it's not another guy and that she's wanting to adopt this child. So,
yeah, he said above, we were never married, but she got married to someone else. So,
okay. Yeah, you need to start making sure you get your contact with your child.
Yeah. Entree Stone said, why does the court pursue non-custodial mothers far less aggressively than fathers for child support payments, are less likely to penalize them, as in license suspension, jail time, etc.?
I bet you could answer that, Eric. Not because this happened to you, Eric, but because we talked about this. Goes back. Whoa, I had a dog bark.
Let's see. He's mad about it too.
He's mad about it. Chico doesn't like it at all. But I think it goes to what we've talked about, these ages-old biases. Fathers forever were seen as the paying parents and the ones that paid the price. And I think we're just hard to overcome that. I think that's the best answer I can give.
It really is, guys. I mean, I would go back to the Duluth model. The Duluth model was made decades ago. It basically says 90% of the time, the guy is going to be the one that cheats on the wife. He's going to beat her. He's going to be the aggressor, use his male privilege to dominate her. And this was taught to judges and attorneys for years. Some of them don't teach it anymore, but there's still many places around the country. And this model made in Duluth, Minnesota was actually, it was been passed around the world. There's lots of people that's used this. I mean, people don't realize how many other countries are going through this same exact thing as the United States, Kevin. It's ridiculous. South Africa is the worst. Fathers, you get nothing, absolutely nothing. But America kind of, the whole world follows us, right? So we have people that watch the show from other countries, and I never could understand it in the beginning. They say, look, whatever America does, our country follows suit. So we're watching you, because if you make a change, our country will make a change. And that was kind of an interesting perspective to hear. But that Duluth model, it's been that way for years, guys. And I think you got some of these older judges that have lived under that for so long, and that's what they was taught. I think that's one of the reasons you got to get involved in politics. As much as I hate politics, we need to get some of these younger judges on the bench, because I know judges get a lot of hard time. A lot of them, it's justified. But for a lot of these younger guys, they understand what's going on, but usually people vote for who they know, a familiar name. So I'd like to get some more judges on the bench that are more well-versed in parental alienation and what you guys are going through. But Douglas said, thank you for the help so much, Kevin. If any of these guys wanted to use your services, I know you can do pro vice and get on some of these cases. Where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, we take high conflict custody cases anywhere in the country. So and usually the first question is, how can you do that when you're not licensed in that state? We go through a process called pro hoc vice, where we get admitted to license to practice in that state in your case. So we usually work with a local attorney as local co-counsel, and that's how we get brought into your case. You can find us at our website, kevinhickeylaw.com. You can call our office at 479-434-2414 and set up an appointment for us to talk. If you will tell the receptionist when you do that you heard about us on Dad Talk Today, we will waive the consult fee for you and have a consult and see if we can help you out. But again, we take those cases anywhere in the country, so give us a call.
And that is awesome, because I tell you, I had to save money as a single father raising my kids. It was hard to come by. I saved up that $400 after the bills was paid and got a consult with a lawyer. And he basically told me, dude, it was cheaper to keep her. So,
man, sorry.
Yeah, well, free consultation. Guys, definitely take advantage of that. That's amazing. And I know your website has a lot of information on parental alienation and false allegations and stuff as well. What was the website one more time, Kevin?
It's www.kevinhickeylaw.com. It's all one word.
All right. So, guys, we will do this again in another 2 weeks. I had said something about I was going to play one more clip from my stand with John before we take this out. Hopefully we get some updates on this case before too long, guys. And as we get them, we will bring them to you. We're going to push back the release of this documentary a couple of weeks. We got to add a little bit more footage to it. We were hoping to have it to you by the end of the month, but it looks like it's coming along. So, Kevin, I appreciate everything, man, and we'll play this clip on the way out.
Absolutely, man. I want to see it.
All right, guys.
So these the next day after it happened, Saturday, we got to John's apartment and found 4 journals that he had left for his children, that he had kept writing in. The journals helped us see the battle and the pain that John carried, and the dad that he was. His children were what he lived and breathed day and night, and he kept going for them. And this was April 6, 2018. Zane, my heart breaks for you, son. I hear you. The pain within me has grown so great and so loud. I will never stop fighting for you and me and Ashira. When you read this, please understand I am doing all I can within my power to be your daddy. But stronger forces than me are keeping us separated. I'm so sorry. I know your pain is deep. Remember me no matter what. All my love in this life and the next life. We will meet again.
Hey everybody, Eric Carroll here. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. While we fight for you, we would ask for you to please help fight for us. Like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notifications every time we go live. There's also Super Chats, patreon.com/DadTalkToday, and other ways you can support our channel. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next.